All right, we all love travel, but is it possible to love travel just a little too much? Is it possible that an overactive case of wanderlust can actually be a bad thing? That's what we're going to explore today in our main segment about travel FOMO, or the fear of missing out. And, it's definitely something that's significant in our influencer culture that we have nowadays. There's so much marketing pressure on us to try to think about the places that we aren't. Maybe it causes us to not appreciate the places that we are. So we'll address travel FOMO in our main segment, but we've also got a bunch of other interesting things to talk about today, including Barcelona protesting against tourists, but the tourists keep coming anyway. One of the most famous hotels in Las Vegas was just imploded. Yeah, they blew it up. And we're going to be talking about the ways that Americans stand out abroad. Can you spot an American by these traits, and is it accurate or not? That's just a sampling of the many different stories that we have coming for you today on the Travel Lemming Podcast. This is the podcast for all things travel. If you love travel, you're in the right place. We're going to keep you updated on the latest news in travel, the latest opinions and perspectives from our wonderful team at Travel Lemming, and we're going to help you become a better traveler. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button and follow along on the Travel Lemming Podcast if you're someone who loves travel. I'm your host, Nate Hake. I'm the founder of Travel Lemming, and I'm here today with Betty Hurd. Betty, how are you doing?
I'm doing great today, Nate. I'm so excited to be here. Welcome, everybody, to the very first episode of the Travel Lemming Podcast. We have lots of great topics to cover today. We're going to go ahead and start off with our very first segment, which is What's New in Travel. Pretty self-explanatory here. Nate and I went ahead and we combed through the internet for the most interesting travel stories as of this week. So starting out, we have United Airlines has introduced 9 new international destinations, which is a pretty big deal because they are the largest airline in the world with the most international destinations, and they just keep on expanding. So some of those destinations that we're seeing are including Palau in Oceania. We have Mongolia from Tokyo, which is huge.
I see Greenland on there. That's not one
Greenland.
you'd expect.
No, I don't believe any other U.S. airline flies to Greenland, so it's very exciting there. And we also, the thing that I'm most excited about this week is that the remains of Sandy Irvine are believed to have been found on Mount Everest. And 100 years ago, he and the famed climber George Mallory tried to summit Everest and be the very first ones to reach the top. So they always wondered, did they make it? And the discovery of his boot with his foot still inside of it hopefully gives us some answers as to what happened to this pair.
Oof, for viewers on YouTube, we've got a photo on National Geographic here of the boot. And
Yes.
Yeah, it's definitely a bit eerie to see that. Quite the story.
It's very eerie, for sure, but hopefully gets some answers for his family there. And as you mentioned at the beginning of this podcast, we also have the Tropicana Hotel in Las Vegas demolished. They're making room for a Major League Baseball stadium. They're bringing over, I think the Oakland A's are moving to Vegas. So they took down the Tropicana for this. They actually had an implosion viewing party at the Mandalay Bay where people had to pay $50 cover charge.
It is Vegas after all. Any excuse to charge a ticket, they'll definitely take. That's some dramatic footage we have on YouTube. We'll put it in the show notes if you're not watching there. Quite interesting. Okay, my next story. So I got a couple here. One is about Barcelona. So you may have seen this, but all summer there have been pretty significant protests by the locals against tourists. And we've got a story here from CNBC. The front cover image is someone holding a sign, "Tourists go home." And you will find that written around the Gothic Quarter and around parts of Barcelona. I've been twice in the last year. And it is true that the Gothic Quarter in particular, can get very packed. But it is also a place where locals live and in some cases have lived in their family home for a long time. I recall a couple years ago when I was there seeing a pub crawl in front of us that was overly loud, and some people from above threw water on them, which apparently is quite common. And I can understand from the perspective of a local, but why you might not want so many tourists coming through and why that might be an issue. But despite that, as this article goes on to say, the tourists just keep on coming. International arrivals to Spain are up 7% year on year. it continues to be one of the hottest destinations out there. And I think it's absolutely worth going. I love Barcelona, but do be mindful of the locals.
Yes, absolutely. I remember I was there a few years ago and we stayed at a party hostel and they told us, always be respectful of the locals. And it didn't really go that way. I mean, that place had the music blasting until like 7 a.m. So I can see why some people would be a little bit upset about how crazy it's getting in Barcelona.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, meanwhile, another Europe destination here. According to Euronews, Rome wants to charge tourists to visit the Trevi Fountain. So if you've never been to Rome, the Trevi Fountain is one of the most popular sites. It's like an Instagram sensation. It's stunningly gorgeous and the photos are amazing. I visited a couple years ago with my partner, Clara. We woke up before the crack of dawn in the middle of the night to be there at the crack of dawn, to be able to take photos and to enjoy it with less crowds. And even at that like dawn, showing up at that hour, it was still quite packed. And then we went back later, like around 11 or 12 midday. And it was practically impossible to move. I don't know. I can see both sides of this. It's a world treasure. You want people to access it for free, but at the same time, by charging, perhaps that helps them to control those crowds. But if you're headed to Rome next year, you might want to keep an eye out for that. That's what we've got for our Travel Lemming news segment. Now let's talk about what's going on Travel Lemming Perspectives. If you're new here, travellemming.com is our main website. We're primarily a blog. We've got a team of writers based around the United States. We've actually got writers around the world, in Canada and France and in the UK. And we primarily write travel guides. So we've got lots of guides to anywhere that you want to go. But we also have this awesome section of the blog that we're really focusing on the moment called Travel Lemming Perspectives. And this is where we write our perspectives, our experiences, stories that we think are interesting. Even if you're not traveling to a particular place, we think these are the sort of things that you just might enjoy reading. So in this segment, Travel Lemming Perspectives, we've each come prepared with a couple of our favorite perspective articles. We're going to quickly go through those articles. But we strongly encourage you to go read these articles. We'll link them in the show notes, wherever that is. You can find it directly on travellemming.com. If you scroll down on the homepage, it goes right into whatever the latest perspectives are. You can go to travellemming.com/perspectives. You can search, which is accessible from the nav menu on travellemming.com, or you can just put Travel Lemming and then whatever the topic is that we're talking about into your favorite search engine and find us that way. So encourage you to go check out these stories. Betty, you want to go ahead and first? What stories do you have for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's so hard for me to choose because there's so many fascinating perspectives that we have on the website. But I wanted to go ahead and start with a recent one, and that was Chelsea's story about backpacking to the most remote town in Washington. It's called Stehekin. And I just really loved this perspective piece because of how much she talks about like the real backpacking experience, that it's not always going to be fun and it's going to be really challenging sometimes. And you might be like, why am I doing this? But because of those challenges, it really makes you appreciate when you get to your destination. And this little town in Washington looks so cool. She said it's only accessible by foot, seaplane, ferry, or horseback. So you can't drive there. It's a really cool place to go. And it's a great thing to check off your bucket list if you're one of those people who wants to go to the places less traveled to. So yeah, I thought it was a great ode to, it's all about the journey, not the destination, but it's a very cool destination too.
Yeah, very cool.
So definitely check that one out.
Lots of great photos. Chelsea's a great writer as well, so I'll always love reading about her travels.
Yeah, she has great imagery, but also her photos just highlight everything that she discussed so well. I loved her photos in this piece. And then moving right along, the next piece that I chose was Matthew's perspective on roots-based travel. And when I first saw this, I had an idea of what roots-based travel was, but I wasn't totally sure. So I gave it a look, and basically it's just where you want to reconnect with where you came from. So, and this could be your grandparents all the way to your great-great-great-grandparents, your ancestors from all over the world. So he was talking about his time in Europe, just his ancestors who he never met grew up, and they're not necessarily places that you would go to. They're not major travel tourist destinations, but I think that that's like the best part of it, was that he's seeing these spots that are close to his family and, kind of taking like a trip back through time. And it was really inspiring to me because I have family from all over the world, but most fascinating to me is my grandparents being in the Philippines. And now I'm like, oh my God, I want to go back to the Philippines and just see all these places where they grew up and the store that they had. And I think it's just a great new take, fresh perspective on traveling. Anyway, this last one that I chose is Laura's perspective on 10 unspoken rules at hostels every traveler should know. This piece was so funny. I think she has so much humor in her writing, which I love, but also it's so legit because I have stayed at hostels where people just do the most obnoxious, ridiculous things where it's like, how do you not know that this is just a rule
Yeah,
to
her
follow?
rule
You know,
number
from
one, no sex in the dorms. So
oh my God. And I have definitely heard that happening before. And I've heard the alarms going off a million times. And it's just things where it's like, dude, how do you not
rule
know you
number
can't do
two, turn
it?
your alarm off the first
Exactly.
time it goes off.
Right.
By the way, like I think that applies any sort of place that you're at.
Of course.
Rule number three, no loud conversations when people are sleeping. Number four, don't turn on the overhead light if people are sleeping. Yeah. Number five, pack the night before if you need to wake up early. Don't sit on other people's beds. Yeah, that used to annoy me. I haven't been in a hostel in quite a few years. I
Yeah.
used to stay in dozens of them. Keep your stuff in your own area and keep it tidy. Don't steal food from the kitchen. Clean up after yourself in the bathroom and respect the laundry. So you can go ahead and go read that story.
Yeah. It's just about being a good roommate, really, which everybody's.
Exactly. I'm going to go ahead and dive into our next one, which is about by Leah Rose. So these are about 19 habits and behaviors that she says make Americans stand out abroad. And this one is one of our most popular perspective pieces. It's generated a lot of controversy. And I have to say, a lot of these are true. I'm an American, but I've spent the last 7 years abroad. And every time I go back to the US, some of these things do stand out to me. She's got things on here like wearing athleisure, which is a very common thing, or university merch, just the way that you dress, having wet hair on outside, smiling a lot. Americans are very smiley, but in particular, loudness. Like, it is so, you can spot, this is very true. You can hear an American conversation from across the restaurant when you're in another country. And then you go to the US and it doesn't stand out as much because everybody is that way. We're knocking on Americans a little bit here, but she also says like friendliness and enthusiasm. That's definitely true. We like our personal space a bit more. And that's something that's taken a while for me to get to learn. There's this thing called the American lean. Have you heard of this? It's this idea that Americans
I had not
like
heard of this.
It is like a lot of people I've asked other people like what their impressions of American. This is one that comes up a lot, is that we like to lean against walls or lean against kind of whatever. We're not comfortable just standing on our own freeform. How we count on our fingers. So how do you count 1, 2, 3, 4? Show me for the YouTube videos and tell me which finger you would put up first.
I start with my pointer finger and then I do the middle finger for 2.
Yeah.
And then this is my 3.
Yeah. So like my partner Clara who's in Argentina, she would do with her thumb, and that's how most foreigners would do it.
That's
Thumb,
so weird to
1,
me.
2, 3, 4. Yeah. So that's one way. Talking about work a lot, it is true. I think we have a whole episode on this about how Americans, we tend to like self-identify by nature of our work in a way that like a lot of Europeans find maybe off-putting or different. We also drink a lot more water than Europeans. That's something I noticed a lot. Tipping. Oh, that's a big one, of course, because, at Americans, we tip an obscene amount in relation to what other countries do. Of course, that's because of how our servers are compensated and the fact that tips are the majority of their compensation here, whereas typically in other countries, it's just like truly a tip, like it's an additional bit, but very big differences. So you can go ahead and go check out that article. Okay, my next perspective is from Sky, and she is sharing what she thought were some of the most overrated attractions in Japan. And I just got done going through a big trip through Japan, so I thought this would be a fun one. I definitely agree with some of her picks, although there's one on here that I kind of enjoyed. So I was kind of sad to see that she thought it was overrated. So she's going through first the Shibuya Scramble, which is the busiest intersection in the world. There's tons of YouTube videos about this, like up to 3,000 people cross it at a minute. People go, every single time you go, you see people coming with cameras each way. It is a crazy intersection, but it's just an intersection. And that's her point at the end of the day, is it's like, is this really such a destination? It's literally just a street crossing,
Yeah. I feel like it's a great spot for photographers, for sure.
Yeah, I think I got some really cool time lapses that we're going to put into some reels that I thought were nice there. But I get where she's coming from. At the same point, like it's in the center of Shibuya, and Shibuya is like you got to go to Shibuya if you're going to Tokyo. So you might as well see it anyway. And go-karting in Tokyo, it's like quite this popular thing to dress up like Mario and drive around in the go-karts. I did not do it because it did look a little like it was fine. I think if I was younger, or particularly a Mario fan, I might love it, and to each their own, but tons of those groups going around. She's got the Team Lab Botanical Garden in Osaka, and this is the one that kind of broke my heart because I loved it so much. So Team Lab, if you're unaware of what Team Lab is, they do these, like, they call them digital art installations, and basically it's all kinds of like art, but it's with like projections. Or in the Osaka garden at night, they have a forest with these giant eggs that are about 1 meter tall. And when you touch them, they make a sound and they change colors. And then the color sort of ricochets through the other eggs
That's
around
so
you.
cool.
And yeah, it's a lot of stuff like that. And she says instead she liked the Team Lab Planets in Tokyo, which is the best Team Lab. So what I really liked about that one is there's one. So first off, when you go, they make you take off your shoes and put them in a locker before you go in. And that's because there's an exhibit where you walk in and it's knee-high water inside of this room. And then they project holographic fish into the water that you can like chase around and stuff inside of there. So Team Lab has all these different installations. Borderless and Planets were the two that we went to in Tokyo, but they have them all around Japan. One of the best things about a Japan trip, and really super cool. So strongly recommend going to all of those. Great for photos.
Yeah, I agree. I went to Borderless in 2019, and it's still to this day my favorite museum I've ever gone to. It's so cool.
I love the interactive nature of it
Yep,
all.
me
It's
too.
super fun. The last one here, I definitely agree with, which is help me with the name here, Betty.
Arashiyama Bamboo Forest.
There you go. There you go. You've
I
spoken
believe.
like it. I'm sure that's right. There is someone will correct us in the comments. This is that famous bamboo forest that you often see. It's often used in advertisements, very popular on Instagram. There's tons of bamboo forests in Japan. I don't know why this one just outside of Kyoto she's totally right. It's super overrated. We got up super early to go when we were there because we're like, okay, we'll get the photos right at dawn. And there was still a ton of people. They were actually filming like a whole, like something was filming there. They had a whole crew, a whole bit. And at the end of the day, it's like a walkway of maybe, I don't know, 100 meters or something of these. They're really tall
Really?
bamboo, and it does look like that. But that's all. There's nothing more. It doesn't go on. And it's crazy because there's so many bamboo forests in Japan. So you would think that I don't know why this particular one is so popular. And there's a lot of other cool things to do around the bamboo forest, but I wouldn't plan a whole trip around that. So I agree with
Yeah.
that. She's got a few other ones. Go check out Sky's perspective piece on overrated Japan attractions. But speaking of overrated attractions, that might make a good transition into our next segment, our main segment, where we're talking about travel FOMO. So travel FOMO is just the idea of fear of missing out. And I wanted to make this our main segment for our first podcast because this is a topic that I think about a lot, which is just how sometimes our enjoyment of travel could maybe be, I want to say that all this social media, all this pressure, we've now live in this culture, right? Where everybody's constantly sharing their photos and they're sharing a very stylized version of what their trip was. Like they're being very selective about what they pick to put up in terms of photos. And I feel like that can kind of affect how we travel. So the idea of travel FOMO for people who don't know is fear of missing out. And it's definitely like the idea of travel FOMO is don't let the desire or wanderlust desire to be somewhere that you're not affect your enjoyment of the place that you're at. And this sort of concept is core to the story of Travel Lemming, because when I founded the blog, I was on a year-long trip to see 43 countries in the world. I used to be a lawyer, and I quit my lawyer job because I was just burnt out. Classic tale of corporate burnout. I said, I want to see the world. So I'm going to take a year off and see the world. And I naively thought that was possible. And I did the best that I could. I went to 43 countries in 52 weeks, which is about 10 days a country or even less than that. And I was just blazing through on a plane every 2 or 3 days, living. Betty's a flight attendant, so basically living that life. What I discovered is that every time I would go to somewhere on my bucket list and check it off, I would get 3 more. And you could never get to the end of the list because it just kept growing because I kept hearing about new cool places or, oh, you came here, but you missed this place down the road. And I didn't have time for that and then I would spend a lot of time thinking about the places that I wasn't and not enough kind of focusing on where I was. And I think I realized about halfway through that trip, sometimes there can be this sort of pressure that is created by social media, by the travel media. And we're constantly at Travel Lemming sharing lists of places to travel. We have a list of 50 best places to travel that we put out every year that we're very proud of. But even as the owner of that site, I can't visit all 50 of those places. Nobody can. And part of enjoying travel is choosing a place and sticking with it and being happy with your choices. At that point in the trip, I started to get a little bit moody because I was exhausted and I was like not seeing everywhere that I wanted to see because the list just kept going on. And then I wrote this piece, which I'll go ahead and put on the screen here, called About Travel FOMO. And I just basically wrote from the place that I was feeling. And I've tried to leave this kind of as unedited rather as I can so that people can just see what we've got going on there. But it was just me sharing how I felt at the moment. And I felt like I was making these decisions from a place of what I was traveling, not for myself, but for what I thought other people could. And if you go and read this, I talk about what travel FOMO is and how I felt like there's nothing wrong with skipping a popular destination or attraction. Like maybe you only have a few days in Paris and you can't go to all the famous sites. Like you shouldn't feel bad about that. You should enjoy your trip. And if that means like taking a bit of time, that's fine. Everyone experiences places differently. Like people, the way that just because someone else really enjoyed a place doesn't mean that's right for you. So you really like travel is fundamentally an act of consumption. I think that travel can be a good force for the world, but let's not pretend that what we're doing is charity when we go out and travel. And so if it's not right for you, like, why are you doing it? And so this was just something that I went through. Maybe someone else out there is having this sense and it might resonate with them. Just this idea that, hey, you can't go everywhere. So be happy with the places that you can go. And this, by the way, applies to a similar topic, which I've written about a lot, which is travel privilege. We're super privileged to be able to travel as much as we can. If you're doing any kind of travel at all, you are privileged. And of all the people who have lived in the history of humanity, like if you've traveled to another country, you are already like in the top 5% in terms of travelers. And appreciating what we have, I think, is really important. And the name Travel Lemming as a blog kind of sprung out of that because I've got an article on the site that goes into depth about sort of where that name comes from. But the idea of like, you might have heard of the expression, don't be a lemming, which is just like, don't go where everybody else is going because, supposedly lemmings follow each other off cliffs, to their death, which is not true. It's actually a lie that was started in a Disney documentary where they faked lemming mass suicide. There's I wrote an article about it.
Disney.
I love Disney World, but sometimes they took a little bit of creative license with these documentaries and it's a whole other White Wilderness is the name of it. I wrote an article on it and then randomly about 2 years ago, Elon Musk tweeted out that article.
You told me about that.
About like 500,000 people came to the site all at once, crashed our servers. What's going on?
Really?
This random article I'd written about the name way before I'd forgotten I'd even written. He like tweeted out because he had some dispute with Disney or something that I didn't want to get in, but the story is super interesting. They totally maligned the name of the lemming. Like that, lemmings do not do this at all. But nonetheless, it led to the expression, don't be a lemming. Don't just follow everybody else. And I feel like in travel, we were talking earlier about Barcelona and how kind of places get hot. Like Japan is really hot right now and with good reason because the yen is relatively affordable. But like people tend to go, something will blow up on Instagram and then that destination will get flooded with people. And I felt like the name came out of that bucket of feelings that I had at the time and just seeing, okay, like it's a tongue in cheek because on the one hand, that's our brand. We are the lemming. There's nothing wrong with going to Paris and London and New York. And we've got great guides to all of those places. And I think that everybody should go there if you can. But on the other hand, it's not, you need to find your own path and you need to do what's right for you. And that might be, I have often found that the places that I enjoyed the most were not the places that I expected going into the trip.
I agree.
And some of my favorite country in the world is Georgia, which I never in a million years thought I would have resonated with so much. I didn't even know what it was really until I was like halfway through my trip. And I love that place so much. It's so interesting. It's so different.
Yeah.
And I think oftentimes expectations, because it's the same as like in marketing, where you'll be searching for, you'll be looking for to buy something. And there's always like an anchor price point. You'll often see like a price and then they'll discount it. And it's 30% off from what would normally be a price that's higher. And then they have it crossed out and they have the discounted price below it. What's the point of that? It's to anchor you in this sort of like higher price so that you feel like you're getting a discount, even though very often it's just the discounted price,
Right.
that they're selling it for. And so the emotional, the sort of psychological thing that they're playing off of is that baseline expectation. And so if you go into a trip with these very high expectations, you're setting yourself up potentially for disappointment. And that's a lot of what kind of I'm getting at with this sort of travel FOMO topic is that the best parts of travel aren't always planned.
Yeah.
And I think by focusing on what you really want to do and where you're at, like you'll be happier and ultimately a more successful traveler. We can talk separately about like country counting and all of that. I think that's a really, that's maybe a potentially interesting topic to have another time. There are some people who really count how many countries they went to. And I used to be one of those people and I stopped counting a while ago.
Oh, I'm still one of those people.
I
Right.
think like, I don't know, what are your thoughts on this, Betty?
Well, so for me, one of my biggest life goals before I turned 25 was to get to 50 countries before 25. And I think in my 24th year of life, I was at 40 countries. And I remember being like, okay, how am I going to get to 10 countries in 1 year? I need to figure this out. And it was like post-pandemic, things were just starting to open up. And I was so dead set on making that happen. And I think we got into like March of the year and I was like, well, I'm already a quarter of the way through the year. I can't get to 10 countries in this amount of time. And like the whole time I was trying to figure out how to get to 50 countries. I didn't even care what countries I was referring to. Like it was just the goal of country counting, like you said. And me feeling like I wouldn't be, I'd be able to post about it or something like, oh, I got to 50 countries by the time I turned 25. How cool am I, And I think I just kind of had like the wrong intention for travel at the time. And again, post pandemic, I think I was just like scrambling to make up for the time lost, when everything was shut down. So for a while, I really had a skewed idea of why I wanted to travel. And I think when I became a flight attendant, that was when I was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to these places that I've never been to before, but only for 24 hours typically. And you can't really claim that you've experienced that country in that time. And that's kind of when I realized like, I'm not fully experiencing this at all. I'm getting one meal and maybe going for a walk somewhere. And I could say like, oh my gosh, yeah, look at this. I've been to all these countries in this short amount of time. But what is that really saying if I didn't get to see the people or see the places I really wanted to see? If I really just like set foot there for a very brief amount of time, I don't think that that's the goal of travel, And maybe for some people it is. Maybe it's really just say, I've been to all these places. Like I was on ground there. That's good enough for me. But I think it just kind of took the special connection I felt to the world out of it when I was just trying to knock things off the list. I'm still not at 50 countries and I'm 26 and I'm much more attracted to what places are going to like really give me an amazing experience. And I want to spend at least a week there. Like that's what I've been trying to do is like just changing my whole perspective of this FOMO traveling everywhere I can possibly go and telling everyone about it to like, you know what, you're going to plan out a trip to a place that you really have always wanted to go to and you're going to appreciate it and you're going to do the things you want to do and meet the people and not have it all planned out to a T. So there's room for, people's suggestions. And I think that that's a really great way to go about it too. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all that. And also one thing, one of the most common questions we get is about budgeting. And one of the most like the best ways to save money on your trip is to just slow it down a little bit because the more destinations means more transit, more trying to pack stuff in. It ends up, I've gone through this exercise where we've run through sort of a 7-day trip with 3 destinations versus with 5 versus 2. And it's a significant difference in the overall cost. So you have more time to take it in. Your hope may be more relaxed and, and you could be cheaper. At the
Right.
same time, there may be some people out there that are hearing this and they're like, they really do value the number of countries they've been to, or they do take that very quick, let's go in and see as many places as we can. And there's nothing wrong with that either. What I'm saying is why are you doing that? If you're doing it because that's what you enjoy, then great. And that's how I feel about all that. I think that's going to be a common theme on this podcast, because that's how I feel about basically all things with travel. Is if it's giving you pleasure and you are enjoying it, and as long as you're not like bringing harm to your local communities that we were talking about in Barcelona and stuff earlier, as long as you're being respectful, good, great, do that. Be aware though that there are a lot of entities out there, including tourism marketing companies, including travel blogs like us, who make a living off of inspiring people and triggering your wanderlust and trying to get you to go travel and to stay in their hotel or book a flight or do what they want, and putting you in a place where your wanderlust is maybe a little bit overactive. Anyway, that's my thoughts on that issue. Listeners, we'd love to hear from you. Do you think travel FOMO? Have you ever experienced this? How do you feel about country counting? Any of those things, leave us a comment. You can also email us at travel@travellemming.com. We'd love to hear your feedback about this podcast. As Betty mentioned, this is our first podcast, and there's certainly a lot of things that we're going to keep trying to work and improve on. We're going to have different segments. Our next podcast is going to be a little bit more focused on a particular destination, Merida, Mexico, where I am right now. And I think we want to be a place for all travelers to come. If you like travel, you should like the Travel Lemming podcast. That is our goal. And there's no wrong way to travel as long as you're doing it in a way that is respectful of others. And we're going to try to cover all of that, but while sharing our own opinions and perspectives. So anyway, that was a bit of a reflection on where we've come, and wanted to do it as a bit of an introduction to Travel Lemming and the brand and the kind of ethos that we're going to take on this podcast and in Travel Lemming generally. Now, with that, I'm going to go ahead and give you a brief pitch for our sponsor, which is ourself, Travel Lemming, because this is our first podcast. Nobody is paying us. If anybody wants to, let me know. But for this first one, we're just sponsored by Travel Lemming. Travel Lemming is a online travel guide. We're primarily known for having over 1,500 guides to destinations all around the world. We have dozens of local guides who live in the cities that they write about. Most of our guides are written by locals, or at least experts who truly know that destination well. You can get good travel advice we have all kinds of great guides. If you ever want to know where to stay in a city, we have amazing guides to almost 200 cities around the world. We have custom maps you can click through. You can save special Google Maps that have like all of our recommendations for things to do, bars, restaurants, all that sort of stuff. We have these for a lot of different destinations. Just go to your favorite search engine, type in wherever you're going and add Travel Lemming to it, and that will help take you to our guides. We also have our perspective section, which we talked about earlier, and we'll be running over a lot in this podcast. And I also want to highlight that Travel Lemming has community meetups in 7, soon to be 8 cities in North America. Our current meetup cities are in Denver, Seattle, Chicago, Nashville, Vancouver, Canada, San Juan, Puerto Rico, and I think I missed Phoenix, which is Betty's meetup.
Phoenix.
Yeah,
that's where I'm at. You guys can come see me.
And we're starting one soon in San Francisco. So these are free meetups. You can find them by going to travellemming.com. Just scroll down a little bit right on the front page there, or you can just Google the name of that city and find our meetups. Come to our meetups. Come meet our team members if you're in one of these cities or if you're passing through. Anybody who loves travel is welcome to join. We have different locations for each city. A lot of them are in breweries or things like that, but they're free to attend. Of course, pay for your own drinks and all that sort of stuff, but come meet fellow travelers and come join our community. Lastly, I want to mention that we have what we call the Travel Lemming Passport, which this is our membership program. And it is a premium membership program, but we're currently giving it away for free for a year. So if you just go and you put in the code Lemming, you will get a year free. You don't even have to put in your credit card. And that will allow you to access the entire site without any display ads on it. Ads are one way that we make money as a website. We also make money when people use our affiliate links to book a hotel or a tour or something like that. If you want to support us and use our affiliate links, you can, but if not, just use our travel advice and go book on whatever your preferred provider is. So that's our pitch from our sponsor, travellemming.com. And again, we really appreciate you listening to this podcast. Please give us your feedback on the site, on the podcast, on all of that. So with that, let's go ahead and transition to our last segment, which we're calling Where in the World Are Nate and Betty? and is a little bit more of a casual segment. But, if y'all are Carmen San Diego fans, you might get the reference to the name. If not, it might be a bit of a confusing segment name. But we're going to just give you all a brief rundown of where we are. So, Betty, where are you? Where have you been lately? What's up with you?
Well, right now, Nate, I am in Phoenix, Arizona, which is my home base. I am actually based out of San Francisco for work. So I'm always going back and forth. But on my days off, I try to kind of just get out in nature. It's just nice to get out of the cities, get out of the airplane environment. So just last week, I went on a 13-mile kayaking trip around Horseshoe Bend on the Colorado River. I don't know. I'm sure you've seen pictures of Horseshoe Bend. It's like one of the most
Looks like a
iconic.
horseshoe, right?
Yes, it does. It's just like a really big red rock boulder, and the Colorado River loops around it in that horseshoe shape. It's absolutely stunning. It's right near the city of Page, Arizona, which is where Antelope Canyon is, the slot canyons. Pretty sure everyone's seen it. That's even like, a computer background is almost always like the slot canyons in Page. I think everyone's pretty much seen photos of it. It's a really otherworldly place. So this was my first time ever kayaking the Colorado River, and it was so much fun. We got taken up in a boat upstream to the Glen Canyon Dam, and then we just kind of floated down. So we really put in like no effort. I didn't have to paddle much. The river just took me down. We
Sounds like
camped.
my kind of trip, you know?
Oh, it was amazing. Yeah. So it was very nice to just get out of the city and be in nature, and also get out of the heat because it's still so hot in Phoenix. But yeah, that's where I was. Where are you right now?
So I'm currently in Merida, Mexico, which is in the Yucatan, a state in Mexico that was actually our number one place to travel on Travel Lemming for 2024. I've been here before. This is one of my favorite places on the planet. And might as well use a bit of a promo for our next podcast, which is going to be all about the Yucatan and why it is such an incredible travel destination. If you really want to experience like unique Mexican and Maya culture, this is a great place. If you're into food, this is a great place. If you're a budget traveler, this is a great place. If you love like adventure and exploring cenotes, which are these like underground swimming holes that look like something out of an Indiana Jones movie, this is a great place. I honestly think everybody should travel to the Yucatan at some point. And so I'm enjoying a month here in Merida with some friends that I met. This was actually one of the stops very early on in my journey of building Travel Lemming. So it's always interesting to come back to places. I love it so much. They recently opened up the Maya train, which I'm excited to take next week, that connects Merida to Cancun, and really a very really significant development in Mexico. Like the outgoing president who just left made a whole big thing about it as a big push to get this done. And they did finally get it open. So I'm going to check that out and see what that is. Recently, I had my trip to Japan, which we talked about a bit earlier, went to Osaka,
Yes.
Kyoto, and Tokyo. That was also a bit of a nostalgia trip for me. When I was young, I lived in Japan for 3 years. I was a military brat, and I lived on a military base.
Yeah.
And I really think that I would not be where I am today, both as a digital nomad traveling full time, as a travel blogger, had it not been for that. Because my family we didn't travel apart from that. Like we only got passports to be able to go live on that base and live in Japan. I didn't go anywhere else as a kid. But living there really opened my eyes to like how there are very few cultures that are more different than the United States than Japan. And which is, I think, is one of the reasons why it's so interesting. So it was very nostalgic to be back there. Kyoto is so gorgeous. I mean,
It's so beautiful.
it's so beautiful.
Mhm.
I think a lot of people, some people will get disappointed in it because they show up and they think it's like this small little town. It's actually like quite a large city. And some of the old stuff in the older, like the Geisha district and stuff, they think the whole place is like that. And it's really just a few blocks. But on the other hand, there's like, I want to say 17 UNESCO sites there. It's crazy how much history there is. There's so many
Really?
temples and so many things. And even the most popular ones do get overrun. But you can find a UNESCO World Heritage Site where there's almost nobody around.
Yeah.
On a lot of this trip, we were busy out scouting hotels. We actually stayed in several different hotels in Tokyo to try to help scout out some of the best hotels there. That was super cool. Like I said, one of ours had an overhead view of the Shibuya Scramble, have some really cool content we'll hopefully
So
be
cool.
putting out just as soon as I can make some stuff. And then recently
Yeah.
was at Disney World. So went and spent some time there, got to meet Katie, who is in person, who is for 3 years has been Travel Lemming's local guide. She used to be a Disney World cast member. She worked at Animal Kingdom and she knows everything about Disney World. And I've always known that she's like a great content creator, as are all of our creators at Travel Lemming. But Katie in particular pours her heart and soul, and she knows Disney World like the back of her hand. And getting to use her guides, it had been probably 10 years since I'd been to Disney World. Boy, if she doesn't know her stuff. If you're going to Disney World, go to travellemming.com/Disney World. Katie's got incredible guides to everything you need to know. And you really need to know that, because if you don't plan for Disney World, other people are planning and you will end up worse off for it. You'll spend too much time in line. They've got this new lightning lane system. It's like an old fast pass, skip the line system. It's a
Yeah.
little, it's pay to play. It's getting really expensive at Disney World, and they're
Yeah.
starting to suck kind of as much money as they can out of people. But if you read Katie's tips, she really had some helpful ones that helped me to use that and to navigate the park in time that we didn't spend that much time in line. I think because it's getting expensive, and also because of the hurricanes lately, we were lucky that crowds weren't that busy there. But anyway, that was Disney World. And now we're here in Merida, which we'll go ahead and be talking about in that next podcast.
Yes, I'm so excited too, because I mean, growing up next to Mexico, it's so different in northern Mexico compared to where you are. I don't know anything about Merida.
Yeah,
And so
it is.
we'll deep dive into that, of course.
The Yucatan is unique, even when you talk to Mexicans, like they recognize the Yucatan as being like one of the more unique parts of Mexico. Mexico has just as much diversity in it as the United States. Like
Yeah.
when you talk to Europeans and like, oh, I went to the US and I didn't like it, or I had this thing, well, where did you go?
Right.
And they'll say, oh, I was in Houston or something, or one place. I'm like, okay, very different than
So different.
California, than New York, than Florida, than Miami, like it's the
course.
same thing in Mexico. There's regional cuisines and dialects and foods and cultures. And if you've been to one part, you've been to that part, but you haven't been to the other ones. And so
Right.
I think I've been to a lot of them. I haven't been to all of them. And that gets back to our conversation about travel FOMO earlier. Yeah, I think I've spent almost 2 years total traveling Mexico. And there's still places I have on my list that I want to go. But I really think the Yucatan is worthwhile of your trip, particularly now with the Maya train. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button on the Travel Lemming podcast so that you'll be notified when we post that next episode. As I said, this is our first episode. How did we do? Leave us a comment. Let us know. What do you want to see more of? What segments, what ideas, what topics do you want us to be covering? Please go ahead and let us know. So we're here to support y'all. We really come and join the Travel Lemming community. Grab yourself that passport. Come to one of our meetups. If you love Travel Lemming is the place for you, and we want to be here to help you. So hit that subscribe button or whatever platform you're on, and stick around for our next episode. We'll be talking all about Merida, Mexico. So with that, we'll go ahead and kick it out. Thank you so much, and see you in the next one.
Thank you so much for joining us.